Now you must not have heard me. It's J. Abraham. I know. Yes.
Okay.
You're on.
All right. Okay, so this should be fun. Let me tell you what we are going to do and why we are going to do it and how we're going to do it so you will not be surprised. I was asked a couple of weeks ago to do something very unusual for me, because most of my time now I spend with clients, or I just do Q&As around the world and problem solving. But I was asked if I could create something that I don't ever do anymore. I used to do linear-based PowerPoint type things, but if I could tie together virtually everything you've learned in the last few days, if I could basically teach you how to outthink, outwit, market, out-strategize, out-compete, outperform, and thus out-earn your competition while teaching you the meaning of life, plus give you insights in how to harness the power of geometry and do it all in 90 minutes. So here's what I did, and here's what I asked. I have never done this before. I made copious notes. They're drawn from the 50 or so specialty programs that I have done over my career. They are on paper, so I have to refer to them, but they came out of my mind, so they're not crib notes that somebody else gave me. What I hope will happen by the time we are done is that I will haunt you with awareness of how much more is easily, instantly, continuously, and profoundly possible from and for the business that you own or run. I'm going to basically give you perspective. I'm going to tell you case study stories. I'm going to give you a multitude of distinctions. And if time allows, which I'm not certain it will because I need to read and extrapolate, we'll take deeper elements of this and explain it. So will you please work with me, because I've never, ever done this before anywhere. So it's, but it's going to be fun. So what I'm calling it is finding more profits and wealth in your business than you ever thought possible, all without investment or financial risk. So I'm going to skip through some of my notes already. I'm not going to use any notes at all, and I already told you what I've done. So we're going to look at a lot of hidden assets. We're going to look at a lot of overlooked opportunities, a lot of underperforming activities, a lot of undervalued resources and relationships inside and outside your business. So let's start with the realization. And I think you've learned a little bit. Some of you have been to, I guess all of you have been to the other business mastery. And I guess at here, instead of teaching the 3 ways to grow a business, they teach 7. But my belief is that you have within your business an enormity of activities, investments, interactions, access that can all be made to perform higher by just utilizing higher performing alternatives to the way you do it. And we're talking about everything from how you target your market, what you offer your market, what you do when you interact with your market, what you do to either get larger units of sale, more residual value from your market, the market that you target, the propositions you make, and we're going to go into it. But same time, same effort, same expense, same macro activities executed differently can produce multitudes more outsized yield. And you've already seen from the 3 ways or the 7 ways that increasing each element by a mere 10% is 33%. Double, and it's 800%. Well, the 3 ways is only one of approximately 30 different realms of geometric impact you've always had available, you have available this moment, and you will always have available in the future. I have dedicated, as Tony said, many decades to learning how to work on the geometry of the business. Easier to make a business grow geometrically, believe it or not, than it is incrementally, but you have to understand why, basis, and how, execution. All right. Okay. The fact that most people don't do this is not your fault. As Tony said on the video, all most people know is what they know, what they've observed in the industry, what everyone else does, what someone taught them, what they watched at a seminar. And that's well and good, but if you've been as blessed as I have, and my voice is a little bit weak, so bear with me. If you've been blessed as I have and worked in 465 industries and something like 7,100 and some number of niche industries within, you see thousands of ways to do the same thing, thousands of different ways to approach strategy, thousands of different ways to attract prospects and convert them, thousands of different business models, thousands of different ways to have competitive advantage. And many of them, not all of them, but many of them, for the same effort or less, the same investment or less risk, will produce a far higher outcome. And they can be used 2 ways. They can be used combined, or they can be used to replace. I just want to get you some fundamentals. So if you look at the companies out there who kill it, who are killing it in any market, in any economy, in any time in history, including right now, they are the ones who engineer the maximum number of breakthroughs, the maximum quantity, quality, consistency of breakthroughs in 9 areas. Marketing. Change your marketing, change your results. Excuse my voice 1 second. This is what happens when you speak for 40 years, day and night, and you consult. Change your marketing, you change your results instantly and normally, profoundly. Change your strategy, change your results. Most small, medium businesses don't even have a strategy. Their strategy is called being tactical. They don't have everything driving and basically being an extension of a big game plan. They just do a little of this, a little of that, hoping to make money and keep making money next year. You change the way you use your capital. It can be how you spend it, paying in a different, paying for results. And capital is money. Capital is opportunity cost. Capital is intellectual capacity, your team. Capital is relationships. Most people don't understand that the average entrepreneur gets only 20% of the productivity of their team. Now, how many here, raise your hands, feel that it's very difficult to hire really quality people? And raise your hands. Now, if that's the case, I'm going to give you two answers, two solutions. One is hire the best and cry only once, because if you don't, you'll keep crying. And the other is if you can't find or you can't afford quality people, then grow and develop them. There's a concept called being a multiplier rather than a diminisher. I have a whole thesis on greatness. I don't think I will have the chance to share it with you, but the bottom line is nobody in their right mind purposely wants to be mediocre. You don't want to be a mediocre entrepreneur. Your people don't really want to be mediocre employees, leaders, managers, workers, salespeople. Salespeople don't want to be mediocre performers. Marketing people don't want to be mediocre marketing people, delivery people, technology people. And yet, only about 3% of the world are what I would call great. And there's this big delta. And there's reasons why. And I'll give you the reasons why, but I don't have the time to get into it. First, almost nobody knows what greatness is supposed to look like internally in terms of how you think differently, conduct yourself differently, and then externally how it's received. Second, if they get that far, they don't know the best path to take them from where they are in any element of their life, business, relationship, health, to where they want to be. They don't know the path. Third, if they figure out the path and they take it, the odds are just like a little baby trying to walk, talk, poop, eat, ride a bike, they're terrible. And so the first time or the second time you do not produce a epic outcome, you retract back to status quo. So you need someone to believe in you like a parent and a child. But you need to believe in your team because they have the capacity, realistically, 5 times greater production, performance, contribution. And if they're not giving it to you and you're blaming them, I would go in the mirror and point. I'm trying to give you a multitude of awarenesses, any one of which, pounced upon, can transform and transcend where your business is to where it'll be. Many of them together will just blow it into whatever it is, the mesosphere. I've talked about strategy, talked about capital. Change your business model and you change your results. There's a lot of business models that will bring more people in easier, faster. There are a lot of business models that'll convert people easier, more significantly. There are a lot of business models that'll keep them in buying mode longer. The odds statistically that any of you have found optimal in your strategy, in your marketing, in your business model, in your capital expenditures are 0. Some of you will be excellent in 1, perhaps a few in 2, but you couldn't unless you've lived a life way expansive, looking at all kinds of alternative ways of doing things, and you haven't. You do grasp very valuable knowledge from activities like this. The next one is your relationships. Jesus, relational capital, and I've done billions of dollars with it. It can be getting organizations that have the same buying profile as you, that have credibility and trust to partner. It can be figuring entities you can become the trusted provider for. It can be figuring what people buy before, during, after, instead, and either, number 1, collaborating with them, or number 2, owning those kind of ventures to feed your own or to go the other way and repurpose. But it's a different way of looking, and I can go for hours on all these, but you change your marketing, you change your business. You change your strategy, you change your business. Change the utilization, the deployment of your capital, you change your business model, relationships, your distribution channels, your access vehicles. You learn the 3 ways to grow a business. Yes? Most of you. And I'm told that Tony has 7 now. But have you learned the Power Parthenon? Who does not know the Power Parthenon? Okay. So my life in business has been dedicated to one thing. Well, 2 things. Creating preeminence, which we'll talk about for a short period. It's a very distinctive part of my brand. It's elevating people to the role of the only viable solution, the most trusted advisor. It's a philosophical strategy, a strategic philosophy that drives everything: your culture, your positioning, your interaction, your brand identification. But let's stay with geometry, because your mind should be blown when I'm done. Not with just this, with everyone. So 3 ways is cool, but it's only one of many. I have another distinction. I probably got, and I'm not being arrogant, but I've done it long enough that I probably have, pardon me, something like, I don't know, 100 distinctions. This is the cool one. So I have a belief system that I think is correct. I just almost got ink everywhere. I believe that most businesses operate like this. Can you all see it? Okay, I call this the diving board theory. This is your revenue. This is the driver. And most businesses have one primary driver. Let me just prove it to you. So it doesn't matter if you do a couple of different things. Raise your hand if the majority of your business is generated by a sales force. Look around the room. Raise your hand if you have no sales force. Yeah. Raise your hand if the bulk of your business is generated online. Look around the room. Raise your hand if almost none of your business is generated online. Look around the room. Raise your hand if a ton of your business is generated by some form of lead generation and conversion offline. It can be ads. It can be seminars. Raise your hand. Look around the room. Put it down. Raise your hand if it isn't. Okay? Raise your hand if you do a lot of trade shows. Raise your hand if you don't. Raise your hand if the bulk of your business is generated by word of mouth or referral. Now, okay, I'm going to do an exercise that I normally don't do until the end, but I think you'll enjoy it. Anybody whose business is at least 80% referral generated or word of mouth, stand up and remain standing. Okay, calculate very quickly for me the following. Number 1, how much a percentage? And number 2, annually, what that represents in dollars, and include if it annually keeps compounding and bringing more referrals and word of mouth. And I'm going to point to certain people, and I just want you, everybody stand, please remain. I want you to stand, and when I point, just say 90%, $1 million, 80%, 300,000. I want to make a point. I'm only going to do random, and if I point to the wrong person, I'm not renowned for being an accurate pointer. You go first. Percentage in dollars. 95%.
800,000.
800,000. Okay. You, sir.
90% 1億円です。
Okay. What did he say? Who understood?
J にトランスレーションして。
Hello, hello. Okay, 90%, 100 million yen, which is $1 million.
Okay, thank you. Keep standing. We're going to go over this way.
Hi, 90%, 2 million.
Okay, I'm going to go here. Doesn't matter.
20%, 1 million.
Okay, you're there.
30%, 6 million.
Okay, go over here. You guys are going to love the when I bring the crescendo of this exercise, you are going to be so profoundly shocked with reality and critical thinking gap. Yes, sir.
80%, $1 million.
Okay, keep going.
80%, 200,000.
Okay, go down a little further. Pick different genders.
20%, 100 million.
Okay. I'll do 3 more.
90%, 750,000.
Okay, pick somebody over there. Your choice.
80%, $2 million.
Okay, do 2 more.
100%, 50 million euros.
Okay, so stop. We see that it's significant, right? Yes? Now, are you wondering what I'm going to do next? I think I'm going to go to the bathroom. No, not really. Okay, so remain standing only if, and if people have been exposed to me before and you sit, I will be appalled. If you stand and it came from me, I'll be honored. Remain standing if you can honestly say that you have in place right now in that business at least one, systematic, constantly adhered to by everyone, strategic referral methodology that you use all the time. Remain standing if you have one. Look around the room. It's not a phenomenon. Okay, those standing, remain standing if you have 2. Separate ones. 3. 4. Okay, the ones that have 3 or more, I'd like to, if we have time at the end, have you share them. But here is the point. A referral-generated prospect already has trust and respect and readiness to purchase. Most companies who get the majority of their business from referral or word of mouth waste an enormous amount of time, effort, opportunity cost, and money on ads, on trade shows, on anything else, which if you look at it critically, and I'm a very big force in using critical thinking, you're working enormously hard to build the outer first periphery of trust, and you're spending money for that privilege. A delusion to me, Tony would call it a hallucination, is that a referral-generated prospect buys quicker, negotiates less, buys larger units, buys more often, is more enjoyable to deal with, costs you nothing in acquisition cost, and refers people. Is that like a wild misassumption? Then would you ask yourself why there's this, what's wrong with this picture when nobody has referral generating systems? Over the course of my career, we've identified 93, and I haven't even dealt with other ones I've learned since we compiled those. I'm not insulting you enough to say you should have 93, but geez, if you have 80, 90% coming to you organically, intermittently, episodically, with no systematized process driving it, isn't it axiomatic that if you had 1 or 2, you'd probably increase that number pretty meaningful? Duh. I'm just trying to all I'm here for is to haunt you with the reality that there's so much more you can do with and for the business you've got now. So I did that. Oh, I got to finish this. Jeez, ADD moment. Okay, so most companies have most of their business come from one activity. There's no reason you couldn't have all those different activities, but the reason is you default to comfort, status quo, follow the herd. I believe that your business is like a diving board, revenue that, and if anything happens to the one driver, your business is compromised. Lots can happen. Most people that have a sales force, they've outgrown connecting with the clients. The salesperson has the relationship. He or she can be stolen by somebody who invests more in them. They can start a business. You're screwed. If you travel a lot and energy costs go up or anything happens, you're screwed. If you have to go to conferences and the conferences are diminishing in attendance, you're screwed. Why do you want to be screwed? The goal in your life is to take risk out of the business, not put risk into it. So what we do when I work with a client is always systematically build what we call a power Parthenon. And this might be referral strategies. This might be, let's say, power partnering with organizations that have the same market, no competitive, and trust. This might be very serious earned media. This might be creating a book that is freely distributed that credentializes you. This might, but the point is, if this is 100%, and each of these only add 5 or 10 or 6 or 12 or whatever this is, 9, it's 9, I'll put a 7. Do you understand that if the 10%, 10%, 10% is 33, what do you think 5%, 10%, 6%, 12%, 9% plus 2 or 3 systemized strategies added here? What do you think that could do to the geometry of your business? Am I being too abstract? It's pretty profound, isn't it? That's how I've grown businesses like that. Now I'll say, you're so smart. I'm very well versed in higher performing alternatives and how to use the geometry of a business. That's what I'm good at. Let me continue. And this is the first time I've ever done this one. So I think I like how it's executing. So there's lots of different distribution channels you can use. You can use partnerships. You can use media partners. You can use different modes. You can use all kinds of things, and you can test any of them very modestly. But think about it. If each one only adds incremental profit, or if you understand lifetime value, which I hope Tony or whoever taught you, which is the game you're playing is not the first sale. It's all the subsequent sales that flow. If all of these only broke even on acquisition, what would they be worth to you in year 2 or transaction 2, 3? It's a different way. I'm trying to give you a way to think differently than anybody else. If I do anything well, it's not speak well anymore. It's think better than other people. Think differently. Think more strategically. Think more optimally. And there's no reason with a little bit of guidance today you can't start doing that. The next is your products and services. And there are 2, oh, by the way, each of these, if you really wanted to, doing this alone is sublime compared to your competitors. But if you really wanted to, each one of them can have a sub-Parthenon, just like referrals. You can have 93 sub-Parthenons optimally, but you can do that with each one. and it just blows the geometric minds immensely. Hold on. I got to remember why I was going to do this. See, when you don't ever do, if you do something brand new, you got to look and see. Okay, very important. Okay. Hey, I'm like a mad scientist. Okay, do you remember? I'm going to do it in a weird way. The 3 ways to grow a business, right? Well, here's something very interesting, because you're looking at 2 things. You're looking at reducing the cost and the time of acquisition of the first sale, and then you're looking at increasing the value of that client, of that buyer. Is that correct? So there's a number of ways to do it. One is add easier, less threatening entry-level products or offerings to get people to start a relationship sooner. The other is to add more advanced complementary products towards the end that bring people up higher. And you are the perfect personification of it for Tony. You're the second level and 400 of your plats. And that doubles or redoubles or doubles again the profit of the transaction. But the easier you make it to start a relationship, the easier you make it to do the first transaction, even if it's not a profitable one, the faster you'll do the second and the third. And it's so obvious that it almost makes me cry that people don't see it. This makes sense, doesn't it? Have I said anything that's illogical so far? Okay, so you can add products in the beginning or the end, or, and this is where people get it's not your fault, unknowingly arrogant. How do you get unknowingly arrogant? You get unknowingly arrogant by thinking you're in one business and not realizing that there are products people buy before, during, after, instead. And if you really want to help them, you would source, because a lot of people are indiscriminate buyers, and if you learn preeminence to be the most trusted advisor, you can almost have an obligation to make those other kind of complementary products or services available to them. You don't have to own them. You don't have to have the mastery. You just have to have control and a fair enough profit participation, and that can quadruple your business. And I'll give you a fun example. Anybody here ever paid anybody any amount of money for any kind of a weight loss process, program, course? Raise your hand. Keep it up if you've done more than one. Keep it up if you've tried books or pills, supplements, or portion control. Most people do multiple things. And if you have control over everything, we've gotten clients to either buy or start feeder businesses, buy or start or partner with alternative businesses, buy or start or partner with extended transaction businesses, because it's all part of the process. Does that make sense? And because I've got ways, and I'm not trying to tease you sometimes, you can do it without any risk. You can get control of it because you have control of you have now control of a knowledge that is really not duplicatable. 99% of your competitors will never learn to think this way. It's very powerful. But the point is, change your products, services, you can transform your business. Next, processes, procedures, and systems. If you have multiple people doing something, there's going to be variability. I don't have time right now to go through variability, but the deal is, if one is, we look at all the different performance elements. Let me give you an example. Who has a large sales force that they operate? How many? Just roughly. Okay, that's large, 537. So let me tell you what we do with large sales forces, and large can be 20. We break down the performance elements that are critical. I'm all about processes and how processes perform. So if you have 500 salespeople, some are be great at opening accounts, some are going to be great at certain kinds of buyers, whether they be dollar size, industrial. Some are going to be great at holding margins. Some are going to be great at repeat. Some are going to be great at combinations. Am I right? But they're not all going to be. So you want to basically figure out the 80-20 rule in each category. Who are the 20% that are 80% better in this one category? There's usually 5 or 6. What do they do differently? What is their strategy? How do they think differently? You want to model that so you can teach it to everybody, because if there are 20 functions and you can help everybody be better in 20 impact points, guess what? You've just worked on the geometry of your business. Then there is another aberration. Most people that have sales forces allocate a territory, and you're assuming that that salesperson is omnipotent. He or she should be able to open accounts. He or she should be able to hold margin. He or she should be able to sell any kind of industry. He or she should be able to sell all the other products. Bullshit. That's a theoretical aberration. People are strong in one thing or another. If you found somebody who was 5 times better at opening accounts than anything else, you could send him or her around to open accounts and pass them to somebody who's better at maintaining them. If you found somebody that's better at selling to heavy manufacturers, why would you give it to somebody who's not? And if he's many times better, or her, that's all they do. They travel and they go with, but that's how you optimize. Anybody want to argue with my logic? Makes sense, doesn't it? Pretty simple, isn't it? Do you think anybody follows it? Do you understand why my success is really not that hard to achieve? It's an integrated way of thinking, and I'm pounding you with a lot of very unique distinctions. Okay. The last is your ideology. You have to believe in these things for it to work. If you don't, it won't. If you don't believe in breakthroughs, if you don't believe in all these leverage points, if you don't believe in systematically working on all the geometry of your business, if you don't believe in integrating new products, services, activities, if you keep yourself status quo, and then you can't change, so you got to change here. And that's leverage as well. Peter Drucker, the probably one of the greatest business thinkers of all time, pardon my voice, said, if you're not constantly committed, it's paraphrased, I don't think he said it this awkwardly, but I will. If you're not constantly committed to making your business, products, services, methodologies obsolete by improving, replacing, innovating, you can rest assured your competitors are committed to doing it to you and for you. So if you don't do it first, guess what? You can be an ostrich, but it's going to happen. Okay, but how do you do all this if all you know, plus or minus 20%, as Tony said, what everybody else does? The answer, you have to force yourself to travel outside your comfort zone, meaning new. You got to study new industries, new businesses, alternative forms of selling, marketing, communication, and you've got to be willing to integrate them into hybrids. My strength happened accidentally. 1 second, please. I looked at that and I thought, is that vodka? Boy, my reputation must be really bad. Or good. Party on. So I started in life at age 18. no college, married, had 2 kids at 20, the needs of somebody 40, and absolutely no skill set. Nobody would give me a job except a bunch of crazy entrepreneurs who didn't give me jobs. They gave me anything I wanted to do as long as I got paid on results. Here's the desk. Open accounts, sell this, anything. When you only eat if you earn, you figure out very quickly what works and what doesn't, and what works better. But I was a transient, and I would very quickly, I do 2 or 3 things concurrently, and I would change industries all the time until I get bored. After about 9 of them, I realized that people in this industry had no clue whatsoever how this industry thought, sold, marketed, positioned, and it was really easy to borrow success elements and approaches from 1 or 2, combine them into hybrids, add them to the next industry where no one else even was exposed to it, and you'd kick ass. And that's what I've done all my life. You have to resign yourself to do that. You could do it a lot of ways. A, force yourself to travel beyond your comfort zone. Thinking about this, I don't know if you're all from Amsterdam, doubt it. If you're not, you've traveled outside a country, perhaps outside a continent. When you travel for travel, you see different culture, different morals, different architecture, different food, different everything. Well, the same with industries. So you've got to force yourself to study all kinds of other industries. Friends you've got, colleagues, relatives, church members, ask them about their industry. How does your industry work? How do you sell? By the way, if I had time, I would ask groups of people who think they generate revenue by the same process, Salesforce, trade shows, to come up, and I would prove to you that each one is totally different. Their interpretation, their execution. You need to learn, because there are 2 things you can do with your business. You can maximize and you can multiply. Maximize means take whatever you're doing right now, even if it's the lowest performing option out there, and make it better, because it's very unlikely, unless you've tested extensively, unless you've compared it against alternatives, that even comes close to being the highest performing, the highest yielding for the dollars or the opportunity or the effort. So you can make those better with many different forms. I'll give you some examples in the, the case study part. And then you can start adding either replacement or additions. And those 2, I'm giving you so many ways to add geometry internally. By the way, and I'm going to get lost because it's on my notes. How many follow Peter Diamandis? I know Peter. I've done some work for him. He teaches how to become an exponential entrepreneur, right? And his premise is technology, futuristic, having a pulse on all that's forthcoming, right? Brilliant. But I'll teach you how to do it internally just by capitalizing on all the moving parts and all the dynamics and all the forces, factors, elements that exist in your business that you are nowhere close to harnessing, to capitalizing on, to multiplying. And that's a pretty exciting thought to contemplate for 2 reasons. Number 1, costs you no more time, effort. It just yields more. Number 2, the risk is actually lower. And remember, one of your goals is to take risk out of the business, isn't it? The less risk in the business, the more predictability, the more profitability, sooner or later, the more sellability. Does this make sense? Cool, isn't it? I thought so. Okay. And I call what this is funnel vision. When we used to do big seminars, we did, as I said, $250 million when I was younger, and I stopped. But we would have 1,000 people in a room, and we'd go to the bookstores when bookstores still existed, and we'd buy a bunch of closeout nonfiction books and magazines that were all topical. And we'd get people and we'd say, you know, what's your hobby or what's your skill ability? And let's say yours is technical. I'd give you a book on cake decorating or on flower arranging, and we'd send you to your room for 2 hours. And if it was a book, you'd have to read 2 chapters. If it was a magazine, you'd have to read 2 articles. And we had them set up. I always use tables that have people all around so you can share. And we'd have you come back and share 2 distinctions that you never realized that you learned from this that had applicability directly, indirectly, or adoptively to your business. And then we go around the room, each table, have them choose the most universal, stand up and share it with everybody. It was effing mind-blowing because you learn from traveling outside. And there's lots of ways to do it. But if you don't do it, you're stuck being insular. And I should repeat Tony's discussion about me where he said, if you're 20% better than your competitor doing the same thing, it's an incremental growth. If you do something totally different, it's an exponential growth. So all things being the same opportunity cost, same 7 days, same 24 hours, same amount of capital, same market, would you rather grow incrementally or would you rather grow, can't talk, exponentially? And asking for an answer would be an insult. So I will assume all of you want the latter. Yes. Okay. So let me give you a couple of really cool examples. So Carnival Cruise, when they first started, had no money. They had these old ships, and one of them, a friend of mine, helped them, so he swore this to be true. I've told this story to earlier groups. One side was painted and one side wasn't. And they had to pull in always to the dock on the painted side so people would think it was more prosperous. And they'd go out with half of the cabins empty. And they modeling and borrowing success approaches from outside your industry. The restaurant business long had traded food for advertising and food for almost everything. Carnival said, well, why can't we trade berth rooms for advertising? So if you look at it, 800 rooms, 400 empty, going out every week, 400 empty, $1,000 a room, you've got $400,000 a week in buying power that cost you. So they went to radio stations, television stations, magazines, and they traded this for advertising. And the advertising they got today, they gave all the media up to 2 years to use their credits for 2 reasons. Because the advertising was generating cash business, and a $1,000 credit today is going to be worth less in 2 years. And they built their business on that premise. Colonial Penn was struggling when they started. They were a affinity-based marketer, meaning they wanted groups, and they were having trouble breaking in. And one of their directors realized that this is before they deregulated air flight, but the only way that you could charter as a group was to be a member of an association. And they thought, well, if we can't get clients, why don't we start our own association so we can be the captive? And they started AARP, which is the American Association of Retired People. And they created their own captive organization to create a market for insurance, group insurance. And they built billions of dollars. Allstate watched all these, not Allstate, Sears. This is when Sears was in their prime. The shopping centers were in their prime. People were making a lot of money with kiosks. And they thought, well, we've got all this traffic. What else do these people need? They were not doing that well, but they started putting kiosks in their stores before anyone else, and they built billion-dollar insurance company. Breakthroughs come from the outside. I'm going to get off my notes, but things like Federal Express. Everybody knows FedEx. FedEx was created by borrowing what's called the hub and spoke distribution system that the Federal Reserve Bank used to clear checks overnight. They just modified it for airplanes. Let's see. Fiber optics was created by aerospace, but borrowed into telecommunications. Rogaine was originally for pimples. Viagra was for heart or blood pressure. Either the ballpoint pen or the roll-on deodorant just borrowed the technology. It's much easier to borrow, and what happens is you're like the one-eyed man in the land of the blind. And if you create hybrids, I'm just telling you, if you look at my resume, or you look me up, which you're welcome, it is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But it's real, because not that I'm that great, it's that most entrepreneurs accept a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the performance from what they do, who they do it for, how they do it, where they do it. And it's not even about spending more money. It's about commanding greater performance. There's a concept you all need to memorize: optimization, highest and best use of. Fill in the blank. Highest and best use of your time, highest and best use of your capital, highest and best use of your market, highest and best use of your marketing, highest and best use of your people, whatever. But you can't optimize until you first get a context, not of everything, but of how many higher performing, less risky, faster performing, more sustaining alternatives are available that you could either directly or indirectly apply. But anybody here commercial property? Okay, highest and best use theory. So everybody here know what Rodeo Drive is in Beverly Hills? If there was a 3-acre lot on Rodeo Drive that had a 2-bedroom, 800 square foot, beat up house on it with 1 toilet, and we were asked to appraise it, would you appraise it as an 800 square foot house? How would you appraise it? As what that property could be converted to in its highest and best use, right? Whether it's a high-rise, a hotel, shopping center, office, right? Okay, you want to impose the same discipline on everything you do. Isn't this fun? When I leave, are you going to remember this? Because I don't want to be intellectual entertainment. I really don't. I want to be not just provocative, but evocative and make you do something, and hopefully something different. Let me continue. We just talked about that. Okay, pardon me. Okay, I already talked about it. There's 2 ways to optimize. You either enhance or you replace or you aggregate. You either make what you're doing better, you replace what you're doing, or you add to it all like I showed you with the Parthenon. I already did the Parthenon, so now you understand that. Okay, talked about Peter Diamandis. Also, and this is important, I've started buying some custom shoes. And it's so cool because they all say, oh, they're bespoke. And you're going, ooh, bespoke clothes, which means that they're made just for you. So I don't believe that I'm a firm disbeliever in the concept that one size fits all in any element of life, most specifically in business growth, dominance, getting a business going, growing, prospering. I'm sure all of you, women particularly, have seen one size fits all dresses on people. Normally one person's body looks great. The rest either it looks too loose, too tight, too short, too something, right? Well, I'm giving you elements of a palette, it's like a smorgasbord or a buffet, and your job is to take, not necessarily with this limited introduction, but to take these elements and combine them into your optimal strategy, your optimal business model, your optimal competitive advantage, not somebody else's. We did exponential, okay. Now it's time for what I call bedtime stories for business owners. Real life examples of wildly nonlinear thinking, many from my twisted mind, many from much brighter. And I'll go through as many as I can, as quickly as I can, and try not to be too abstract. So I got started, which Tony might have told you, with a product called ICIOT. ICIOT, analgesic balm, arthritis, bursitis. Today it's sold in the stores. When we got it, it was a mail order product. Old, almost out of business. But the people that were bought ferociously, fanatically loyal. And we looked at the buying. If you don't quantify what you know that you don't know you know about your business, then you are operating at a disadvantage. This is an aside, but it relates to this. All types of buyers aren't worth the same. All sources of buyers aren't worth the same. All product types aren't worth the same. And unless you know which ones are worth more or less by analyzing the profitability up front, the residual value, how certain buyers may evolve to other products and services, how certain buyers may be very profitable but not go anywhere, how other buyers may not be profitable but buy like mad in the future, how different sources could be worth 5 or 10 times another, you can't possibly know how much you can afford to invest in the acquisition of that asset. And you have to look at it as investing in an asset, and that all assets in your portfolio aren't worth the same. Does that make sense? Nothing confusing so far? Good. The question? Well, you quantify by basically this. So, you remember when Tony showed you originally the 3 ways to grow a business? Number of clients, size of the sale, frequency of sale, or utility. Frequency means when they buy more things. Utility is other things you can sell them that are not necessarily your main product service line. Well, everyone goes like that, but how many really know how many buyers you've got? How many know what the categories they are? How many know what they cost you to acquire? How many know what they were worth beyond the first sale? Does that help you? And how long you can predictably project a revenue stream in each category. And it differs, and certain people are, okay, so back to ICIOT. This is where it comes. So we took this company. It sold a product that was sent by mail. To summarize and make it quick, it sold for $3 in the mail. Our cost back then was 55 cents to make it, pack it, ship it. Very cheap. But it was a great product. And we had analyzed, quantified that out of every 10 new buyers, approximately 8 bought every month forever till they died or a cure for arthritis, neuritis. Out of those 8, 4 would buy another product every month. Out of those 4, 1 or 2 would buy twice a year bulk. Bottom line is, every time we brought in a new 10 people, we accrued $50 of profit a year from each $3 sale. With that piece of knowledge, we had no money to market. My job was to go to every radio station, television station, print media, seller of anything compatible, and get them to run ads for us when they had unused avails, and we would let them keep all of the money, and we gave them, and they were very shocked because no one did this, an extra 15%. We would send them 55 cents more, or 45, whatever, 50, 45. All we wanted was the name of the buyer right away so we could fulfill. And over the course of a year, I was very blessed. I was good at what I did. We created 1,000 different performance-only distribution channels. We created 500,000 repeat buyers. We got about $27 million back then. This is 35, 40 years ago, of media that today would be probably 150, and we accidentally forced retail distribution, meaning people would go to their pharmacies, their groceries, and want it, so they bought it. A year later, a major pharmaceutical company came to us and bought the company. I didn't own equity, for about $60 million. They did not even want our buyer list. They did not even want our distribution media channels because they wanted it as a consumer product. All we had to do was guarantee not to compete in arthritis. So there's 2 lessons. One, and I've done courses and instruction on how to use other people's resources, assets, access, brands in lieu of capital, but we created $60 million worth of value in 2 years, created a 500,000 buyer asset base we got to keep, created a distribution channel we could put other things through just for sweat equity. So it's very interesting. The next one, it's cool. Then I did Entrepreneur Magazine. Thank you. I like this. Where's my wife? I want you to do this when I tell you I had a great day. Not just the music, but bring these people to the house, fly them in so they can, yeah. Okay. We got a lot of ground, and it says I only have 30 minutes left. So I'm going to tell Entrepreneur next. So Entrepreneur Magazine started out not as a magazine. It was a membership organization for $100 a year. You'd get a bunch of plaques and things, but you got every month a publication that looked like a magazine, but basically was a chronology and an executive summary of a major emergent small business opportunity. About 30 pages would tell you what the business opportunity was, what the big franchisor was, what the risk level was, cost, yield, if you're going to do it yourself, how to do it. And it was very well done. But at the end of every month, we did nothing whatsoever with those research analysis except throw them into archives. When I got there, we had hundreds of them. So we took them, we added to them what's called boilerplate. Basic, generic stuff, how to hire an attorney, how to do bootstrap marketing, advertising, how to hire employees. And we created startup manuals. And we sold 300,000 repurposed versions of what was in archive for $39 a piece in our first year, which was 10 times more than we got in membership. Then we took and aggregated them into verticals: low investment businesses, food businesses, automotive businesses, asset building businesses, and we sold those for $200 a collection. But it was called redeploying your assets. And everyone has assets that can be redeployed. Anybody who's successful has at least one process: selling, marketing, cash flow management, inventory control, that is superior to 50% of your competitors. If you can isolate what it is, if you can quantify what it is, you can sell it, you can license it, you can joint venture it with people. Great example. I had a lumber company that had a process for kiln drying, which those of you who don't know, lumber is the biggest consumption of cost, energy, time, and volatility, because if you over or under, it warps, and the gradation of the lumber becomes either lower or worthless. But if you look at a lumber yard, I could give lumber away 1,000 miles, and it's not cost effective because of the shipping. So my guy had developed technology that cut energy by 50%, produced higher gradations by about 50%, and we licensed every major lumber mill in the world to use his technology. First of all, $25,000 a year. We had every time we added a distinction, it was an increase. We had some on saving percentages. There was a car wash we had that had a process for upselling the premium services, the spray wax and the white walling, and theirs were something like 3 times more than the average. The only competitive market was about 3-mile radius. They were making $20,000 a month, pardon my voice, on their car wash. We licensed 1,000 car washes for $200 a month to use their methodology and made $200 grand a month from that. Everyone has something like that. I've got dozens of stories. Next. Cool. I've told this before, but it's cool. It talks about relational capital. So sorry about the voice, but the brain still works. I think. So I have traveled to China for 8 years. First time I was there, very large crowd, very expensive program, very hungry audience for ideas. And a young man came to the mic and said, "What do you do if you're a small business that wants to grow and the bank won't lend you money?" I said, "Well, obviously tell me more." And he said, "I'm a small local motorcycle manufacturer." Now, only in China, where a city is 100 million people, could you be a small local motorcycle manufacturer. And he said, "I want to grow. I would like to open a plant somewhere else in Asia, get salespeople, get distribution, be all over Asia." I said, "Okay, so what's the problem?" He said, "Well, the bank will lend me money." I said, "Okay, but I still don't understand the problem." And he, "Well, without money, I can't do it." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, what's my alternative?" I said, "You go to Asia and you find a company that's in a complementary, non-competitive business that has underutilized manufacturing, that already has distribution, salespeople, retailers, and you partner." Duh. That was my literally 2-minute consult. Came back a year later. Same guy comes back to the mic, and he's smiling like the Cheshire Cat. And he said, "I did what you said." Now, with all honesty, back then I was doing so many seminars, I didn't remember what I said. I said, "What'd I say?" And he told me. I said, "Oh, that's cool. It's a cool idea. what did you do? He said, I went to Kuala Lumpur. I found a lawnmower manufacturer who had distribution, was the biggest, and they were in 8 countries. They had a huge factory. They were underutilizing. They had salespeople all over. They had offices. They had thousands of lawnmower dealers. All I had to do was bring the tools and the dies. You all know what those are, the formative items that you forge the metal, and the instruction. We did a 50-50 deal, and we split $10 million of profit in year 1. That's the power. I'll tell you another China story. The Candyman. Candyman story is great. So no. I mean, I literally have so many of these, I can't remember them. And just because I've been trained to see not, you remember the thing with Bruce Willis, I see dead people? I see dead assets. I see dead opportunities. I see dead activities. I see dead relationships that people don't recognize are just screaming to be harvested, harnessed, monetized, managed. So we had this candy company in China, number 5, that kept coming to our seminars 5-6 years in a row. All of a sudden, in the 6th year, that the managing director comes back to the green room where I'm sitting, smiling and saying, I want to buy you a custom, bespoke pair of shoes. I said, sure. Why? He goes, we just sold our company, the part you can sell, for $500 million to Hershey's. I said, that's great, but why do you want to buy me shoes? He said, we built it from number 5 to number 1 using your strategy. Now, I got so damn many strategies. It's like, oh, tell me how you used my strategy. He said, you taught us that if we help grow our clients, our business would automatically grow with it. So he took what he learned at my seminar. He had his sale. Oh, by the way, in China, there's 20, 30, 40,000 mom and pop candy stores all over. He had his salespeople go to them and say, in essence, look, everybody can ask you to buy more of their candy. But when they do, they're really saying, let us take advantage of how hard you work to build your buyers. We have a different desire. Will you let us help you build your business? Not just your business for us, but your business for everybody. We'll teach you how to grow more buyers. We'll teach you how to sell more candy without giving them cavities. We'll teach you how to get people to buy more. And if we do, if nothing else happens, if we help you double your business, we double ours with you. And we're hoping that by doing so, you will see that everyone else just wants to take advantage and we want to contribute, and you'll give us more. And that's exactly what happened. They went from number 5 to number 1 and became worth $1 billion because I think you can only sell half the business. That's a cool story. I'm going to tell 2 more, and then I got to move because I'm not equaling my time. So I told this, I'm sure, to the first level, but it's a fabulous story. So there's a man in Northern California who loved Porsche automobiles. He loved them, but he never had enough money to own one. He always wanted to own one. He found out a small Porsche dealership was going to become available in Northern California, and he researched it. It required about $1 million capital to get the franchise. He couldn't even afford a Porsche, let alone $1 million capital. So he was disheartened until he studied the dealership provisions, what you could do with that dealership. And he realized that the dealership could make an unlimited amount of demos available to people to drive for 2 or 3 months and put them back in new car inventory as long as they had, I think it was less than 3,000 miles on them. And with that piece of realization, he ran an ad in all of Northern California that said, drive a brand new Porsche every year for life for a one-time investment of $75,000. And he got 300 or 400 people to do it. He got all the money to get the dealership. He got an extra $1 million for operating. He didn't have to give away 1 iota of equity nor 1 percentage point of debt. And half the people would buy the cars and became the greatest referral source because they wanted to see him stay in business. Just trying to show you how to think differently. Is that cool? What are you laughing at? Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a really cool one that I did years ago in Australia. So, in the beginning of CRM, there were a bunch of companies that had very, very sophisticated systems, but they were expensive for entrepreneurs like yourself. Some of you are huge, but for the majority. And there was a company in Australia that I helped for a little while, short consult. And they were selling about a $50,000 system. They were running ads in a multitude of trade magazines in Australia. As I recall, they were getting about, and my numbers may be off a little bit, 1,000 leads a month, selling about 3%, but those 30 at 50 was a lot of money, and they wanted to grow their main business. And I made a point, and I said, well, you know, you're getting 970 people who really, CRM is not a fun subject. They're interested. They want it. They probably need it. But your system is either too expensive, doesn't have terms, too many bells and whistles. Why don't you find a lesser sophisticated, down-to-earth, lower-priced one that somebody's got that's brilliant, but they're such a bad marketer, they're selling 10 a year, and get a private label right, put some your own bells and whistles, and make that your downsell, what you sell to people that don't. They did that, and to make the bottom line quick, that became their most profitable business, and the expensive CRM became the lead generators for the other. But it was a reversal. We did something with a company that sold fluid transmission systems. Who knows what that is? A couple of you. It's PVC pipe that you use in manufacturing, agriculture, bottling. Manufacturing, chemicals, bottling, syrup and water, agriculture, water, or I guess liquid fertilizer. And this company was, it was California-wide, and they wanted a breakthrough, but they had very little money, and they had 5 salespeople. And I asked them this quantification question. Well, I need to know what's the average sale of a brand new client, how much do they buy in the first year, what's the average lifetime value, what compensation are you giving your salespeople? Turned out they were giving their salespeople 10% of the profit. When they went back and did the analysis and the surveys and the quantification, they found that on average, and by the way, when you do any quantification, you always want to look at worst case, not best. That way you'll always be surprised and benefited. You won't be overzealous and disappointed. So worst case, the average new buyer, pardon my voice, $200 of profit. Worst case, the average new buyer, 5 transactions a year. Worst case, each transaction, $200. Worst case, on average, 3 years worth of viability. So 200 times 5 times 3 is what? $3 grand. So worst case, every new client was worth $3,000. Now they were paying their salespeople 10% of profit. And I said, well, can I make a guess that they haven't opened many new accounts? And they said, you're right. And I said, well, it's because it's worth $20 to them in their limited, linear, front-end loaded mind. Why don't you try an experiment? Go to them and tell them that as long as they keep their territory production at par, which means whatever the average has been, so that they don't lessen their average from their existing clients, give them 100% of the profit on the first sale. And there were two brothers. They went, why in the world would we ever want to give away $180? And I said, you're not. You're investing $180 you never had for the 2,800 future dollars you absolutely will. For the 90% of that, you absolutely will have. And I said, it's not smoke and mirrors. And they did it, and their business went up 5 times. That's the power of understanding these. And there's a myriad of these. Okay, I got to move. So within your business, there is a concept. Believe it or not, I've shared 4, 5, 6 elements of geometry. There's another one called leverage marketing. And any business has, on average, 10 to maybe 30 impact or leverage points in the revenue generating process. Distinctions, elements, connections that can be improved. Everything from the way you target your market, how you communicate, what your proposition is to get them to engage, what your offer is, what your risk reversal is or isn't, what incentive you give them, how you program them for the next purchase or the future purchase, what you do to preempt negatives. Most people don't even know what those 10 or 20 or 30 impact points are. But believe it or not, okay, how many people in this room have brochures they send out? A lot. How many send them out with an extensive cover letter? How many send them out with a modest cover letter? How many send them out with no cover letter? Look, okay, so think about this. If you were a salesman and you got, pardon me, an interview into somebody's office and you're sitting in front of them on the desk and they say, okay, you don't say a word, but you throw your brochure on the desk and you go, you think you'd sell a lot? The brochure is nothing more than the denomination of the features and benefits. The cover letter you send is what really makes the case. If you don't have a very powerful cover letter, you are reducing your yield by a negative factor of as much as 80%. Seriously, that's another leverage. Now, another point. Most people focus on features, but most buyers buy benefits. Do you know the difference? Tony hopefully has taught you. Simplest examples for me to make sure that your yes is an authentic yes and that your definition and mine are in alignment is to give you 2 examples. Example 1. Let's say I was trying to sell you a kick-ass TV. And I said, it's got 5,000 pixels per square, this, and it's got blank, I don't know audio, but, blank, whatever the audio denominators are. Well, those are features. And most of you would go, okay, but if I said, when this TV is in your home, you and all your family, friends, and co-viewers will think it's better than in a full-size theater. And the sound will make you believe that the people are coming out of the walls to really attack you, or the horses are going to run over you. That's the benefit. We laughingly say when people go to a hardware store to buy a drill, they don't really want a drill. What do they want? A hole, or they want to fasten something. But people don't buy features. They buy the benefit, the advantage, the protection, the entertainment. But most people don't sell that. These are all leverage points. Every one of them is another leverage point, another way to multiply that geometric element. Let me give you a couple other things. Everybody selling anything has within their sales process a headline or the equivalent. The equivalent is what you say in the opening remarks of a face-to-face or a telephone, or what they see as the signage on a booth at a trade show, or what you say when they go by, or what you say when they walk into your store. Research proves beyond a shadow of a doubt, or the subject line in an email, or the headline on your website. And what research has proven is that you have within your power the ability to multiply the impact and thus the result of that headline or all its variation equivalents, first paragraph in a letter, up to 21 times, just by using something more powerful. I will give you three quick examples. I got 5 minutes left. How did I go from 20 to 5? I think they played with the monitor. So I'll be very quick. Okay. One example. Years ago, I was in the gold business when gold was selling for $300 an ounce. I had a client that had bank financing. You could finance 2/3 of that. Their ad said 2/3 bank financing on silver and gold. Ads were profitable. I looked at it and said, you're not denominating the benefit to the investor. I changed the headline only. It was $300 an ounce. I said, if gold is selling for $300 an ounce, give us $100 an ounce and we'll buy you all the gold you want. We did the same with silver. It was $6. If silver is selling for $6, give us $2. We quintupled the yield of the same ad. That's one. We had a furniture store, a very large one. We tested 33 different ways of bringing people into the store when they came at the door. One way tripled the amount of conversions and tripled the amount of sales. And I'm not going to make you guess. I'll tell you what it was. It was not, can I help you? It's not, are you looking for something? It's this. And what ad brought you into the store today? You couldn't, it transferred power and control. You'd say the 4-piece Italian bedroom suite. And then I could say, oh, is it for a new house? Is your home Italian? Is it replacement? And now I had leadership control. I could give you so many more. We've changed banners at trade shows from having the name of the company to having a denomination of what the product performance is. In other words, double the production of your factory lines with half the downtime or whatever. And we've gotten 10, 20 times more people. Or when everyone's visiting and you've got a minute to utter your elevator pitch, we've changed that. Let me hurry through a couple more, and then they'll pull a hook and pull me off, I'm sorry to say. There's a lot of other factors. Oh, quickly, you have so much more to share. Almost every business in this room is stuck and doesn't know it, and particularly ones that are growing at an acceptable rate and think they're doing okay. You can be stuck losing out to some degree to the competition. You can be stuck not selling enough based on what your real potential is. You could be stuck with erratic business because you don't have continuous drivers that migrate, generate, convert, resell. You can be stuck not having powerful strategies, being tactical. You can be stuck with costs eating up your profits and not knowing how to compensate. You can be stuck being marginalized, commoditized by the market and not know how to make yourself a proprietary. You can be stuck with, most people are, mediocre marketing. You can be stuck trying to do it all yourself. I don't have time. I would have told you how to get unstuck, but I can't. No, it's not teasery. If they give me more time, I'll be happy to. I have no time left. I mean, it's, you guys tell me. It says done. Okay. You want, all right, okay. In a bloodless coup, if you want, we'll let the inmates take over the prison and we'll deal with the consequences later. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give Jay Abraham a big hand. We're going to be here all day tomorrow.
Well, what do you want me to do?
Well,
you tell me. I don't care.
Here's the thing.
I'm just the volunteered expert.
Let me just check in. Firstly, ladies and gentlemen, has it been good? Give it up for Jay Abraham. Good. So, if you want some more of Jay, there's a very easy way to do that. He's going to be here all frickin' day tomorrow. From like, I don't know, 10 in the morning, I think, or whatever time we start all day. Is that when you're on, like 10 or 11 or something? Whatever, you're on all day tomorrow. So that's going to be what we do. We need to keep this party moving. So please, we're going to do this. Two things. I'm going to do this. Firstly, who would like some more Jay Abraham in their life? Raise your hand and say yes. So we have an uber cool opportunity, and I'm going to talk about this man while he stands here.
Oh,
and he's going to
don't
be
do that.
bashful, and he's going to be humble, and he's going to be embarrassed. We've got a couple of things. Number one, if you grab a seat for 2 seconds. Jay has put together an opportunity to coach you and work with you for the next 12 months. So we just had, it's perfect, we had 90 minutes. How many of you got reams and reams of value from that 90-minute conversation? Raise your hand and say, aye. So here's the opportunity.
How many didn't?
Shh. The deaf people and the blind people at the back of the room. Here's the opportunity. The opportunity is this. In the next 12 months, we would love to get Jay on the phone with you for 90 minutes, 120 minutes if we can. That bodes for you. And every month for the next 12 months, have very specific content addressed about specific areas of your business. Now, the beautiful thing about this is they're going to be small group phone calls, Zoom or Skype or whatever the technology is, and you're going to be able to submit questions prior, and Jay is very studious and thorough, so anybody that submits questions prior, he gives priority to, because for him that shows that you're studious and you're paying attention and you're attentive. You can also ask questions during the 90-minute to 120-minute session, and they're going to happen once a month. They're recorded, so if you missed one, you can get a download and a copy of the recording, and they're very content-driven and very about execution. So those calls are going to go for 12 months. They're a cool opportunity. And then as a bonus for that, sometimes you're going to ask Jay a question, and how many get that this man has got a huge archive of content, stories, anecdotes, and references for what he's done? How many get that? Please say yes. So sometimes these answers take a long time. You can go on and on and on. So what we have available for you is access to pretty much everything you've ever done. I mean, we have a little hard drive, and this is what it looks like. And here's what it has. It has over 600 videos, over 3,500 audio files, over 83 individual interviews with Jay, over 108 hot seats. Now, a hot seat is when somebody stands up and says, hey, here's my business, here's the challenge I have, what do you got for me? And then Jay dives deep into their business for 20, 30 minutes and gives them not one, not two, but 10, 12, 15 different effective strategies to make an impact. There's 108 of those conversations on here, and there's well over 1,000 different documents. As many as those documents are 10, 15, 20 pages of content, strategy, procedures, and systems. So over half a terabyte? It's half a terabyte. It's 500 gigs. So it's half a terabyte of Jay's lifetime work. Literally tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars of actual seminar content, and certainly millions of dollars of value. So the opportunity is pretty simple. It's a 12-month program.
I hate being here when he
No, let's do it.
No, but I don't sell anything anymore because I'm more focused on clients. But in my lifetime, we've done hundreds of very expensive and extensive programs, many, many specialty ones. I just borrowed from them for different ones for this. But we don't sell them. They're archived. We put 35 full programs on this. And my daughter thought, oh, well, it'd be great if we'd put your body of work here. So this is a lot of stuff, a lot of specialty programs, a lot of very deep 5-day, 3-day, hot seat, $25,000 stuff that we don't sell, but we want to get it. It's too valuable to stay archived, and I like answering questions, so I do it because most people ask very interesting ones, particularly from Tony's group, so we do it here, and that's...
Well, and I think what's great about it is that on the group coaching call, when you ask Jay a question, and if he spends 20 minutes answering a question, he can actually refer you back to it.
We can refer you to a course that's here on relationship capital or consulting mastery or general business building. There's a lot of stuff on there. But I'm going to leave because I'm embarrassed.
Well, you're going to stay here. No, stay here.
I'm going to stay here
so they can report for you. So the opportunity is simple. If you want the program, it's 12 months of access to Jay. So every 30 days, you're going to get on the phone, small group session, at least 90 minutes, sometimes probably 2 hours, 2.5 hours long. Very content specific, very driven towards execution and outcomes, taking action. The program is $6,000. You pay it off over 6 months. That's $1,000 a month for 6 months. You get access to Jay for the year. If you want to get a big discount off that, you can pay for it in full. So you get a big discount off that. It comes down to $3,995. So a very small nominal amount for a body of work that represents his lifetime of work. And seriously, never mind the hard drive, you got 15, 18, 20 hours of listening to Jay Abraham on the phone.
Can you imagine that?
Can you imagine that?
Wow.
And I want to be clear, my experience of a small group mentoring session like this is that usually only the very, very committed actually show up and participate and play full out and pre-submit questions, and they're the people that Jay is most excited by. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, there's an interesting... I have a belief system that literally what happens in these rooms, people think is the commitment. It's really the preparation. And the real commitment is what you're going to do with it when you go home. How are you going to make things happen and continue? Because it's amazing how many people express they want to grow their business, express they want to make more profit, express that they want to be more preeminent, or whatever you would express it in terms of any nomenclature here. And then they can't find a couple hours a week to work on it. They can't find time to schedule or re-listen. We laugh not because it's funny, but there's a fine line between pathos and humor. It's pathetic. But the ones rule the world. See, I believe there are victors and victims, and there's three kinds of people. The ones that make things happen, the ones that watch things happen, and the ones that things keep happening to. Serious.
And they ask what happened.
Okay.
All right, very nice. Ladies and gentlemen, so here's the opportunity, pretty simple. 6 months payment plan, $1,000 a month, or paid off in full, save a bunch of money. It's 12 months of access to Jay Abraham. That seems like a pretty obvious thing to do in my world. Please be upstanding and thank properly and appropriately the one and only Jay Abraham for being on stage at Business Mastery on day 5. Jay friggin' Abraham!
All right. Okay.
I said it's Jay Abraham.
Thank you. Appreciate it.